She woke up on a cold metal table, handstead, unable to scream. The last thing she remembered was trusting him, the man who promised her paradise. But when she looked down at her body, she realized Eddie had already taken something from her. This is the true story of Rosa Aguilar, a 51-year-old Filipino woman who thought she was boarding the cruise off her dreams. Instead, she sailed straight into a nightmare that would steal more than just her trust. What happened to Rosa in that Mexican warehouse? How did she escape? And who was the man who betrayed her? You're about to find out. Rosa Aguilar had spent 51 years buying Gavarione's rock. A devoted mother, a tireless caregiver, a woman who always put herself last. Born and raised in Quezon City, Philippines, Rosa had always been the pillar of her family. A single mother of 3 grown children, Lita, Paulo, and Nana, who relied on her for everything. For 15 years, she worked as a home health aide in Dubai, sending every penny she could back home to support them. She recently returned to the Philippines after her contract ended, but things weren't as she imagined. The warmth of home felt distant, the familiar streets now cold and uninviting. Divorced 8 years ago from an abusive husband, Rosa had fought alone to keep her family together. Now living in a small apartment in Manila, she felt like a stranger in her own life, lost, purpose fading, the weight of sacrifice heavy on her shoulders. For 3 decades, Rosa had lived for others. Her children's school fees, her elderly mother's medical bills, her siblings' emergencies. She was the family's lifeline. But who was Rosa's lifeline? At 51, Rosa looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself anymore. The woman staring back had forgotten how to dream, forgotten what joy felt like without guilt attached to it. Her children were grown now, independent. They didn't need her constant presence anymore. And for the first time in her life, Rosa felt terrifyingly free. But freedom without purpose feels a lot like drowning. Her empty apartment felt suffocating. Fuels closing in as she spent nights scrolling through her phone, watching other people's lives unfold, while her seemed to be stuck in neutral. The ache of realizing she'd spent decades surviving, but never really living. It gnawed at her. There was a growing emptiness she couldn't fill, like she was running on fumes, searching for something, anything different. Have you ever felt invisible in your own life? Like you've been playing a role for so long that you forgot who you really were underneath? That's where Rosa was, and that's exactly where predators like Taunt. One evening in June 2018, Rosa stumbled upon a Facebook group, Filipinos over 50, living our best lives. It seemed harmless, welcoming, a community of women sharing recipes, travel stories, and encouragement. Rosa joined, hoping to feel less alone in this new chapter of her life. The group had over 12,000 members, women sharing stories of post-divorce adventures, solo travel, and starting fresh. For the first time in months, Rosa felt seen. She wasn't just a mother, a caregiver. She was a woman, rediscovering herself, and that's where she met him. Vincent Torres, 43 years old, handsome profile picture, a fitness enthusiast and life coach who posted inspirational quotes about living boldly and embracing second chances. He seemed perfect to perfect. Vincent's first message to Rosa was simple. I read your comment about missing the ocean. When was the last time you did something just for you? At first, it felt innocent. His words seemed like a genuine inquiry, a chance for connection. But slowly, Vincent's message began to dive deeper. He asked about her dreams, her regrets, her fears. He shared his own story of overcoming hardship, of finding peace after tragedy. A tale that painted him as a man who understood pain, who could relate to her. And then came the praise. For 3 weeks, Vincent became Rose confident. He listened in ways her ex-husband never had. He noticed the little things, her favorite flowers, her childhood dream of seeing the Caribbean, even the way she laughed in voice messages. But here's what Rosa didn't. Everything Vincent was doing, it was textbook grooming, and she wasn't his first victim. On week 4, Vincent dropped the bait. Rosa, I've been thinking life is too short to keep waiting for the perfect moment. I'm booking a cruise Manila to Hong Kong, then to Okinawa. 7 days. I want you to come with me. Don't worry about Thekist. I've got it covered. Just bring yourself and your courage. Rosa's first instinct, hesitation. This was crazy, right? Going on a cruise with a man she'd never met in person. Her inner voice screamed warnings. Her practical side fought back. Fear of judgment from her children. The voice in her head saying, "This is your chance. But then, this is dangerous." A tug-of-war between the desire for something new and the weight of what she knew. But Vincent reassured her, "I'll book separate cabins. No pressure, just two friends exploring the world." And then Vincent said the words that shattered her defenses. "Rosa, you've spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. Let someone take care of you for once," she said. Yes, the 15th of July, 2018. Rosa stood at the Manila port, her heart racing with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. She wore a new sundress, her hair freshly styled. For the first time in years, she felt alive. The moment she saw Vincent in person, she felt a surge of relief. He looked exactly like his photos. Tall, handsome, his smile as warm as she remembered. He was the man she'd trusted, the man who'd promised her an adventure. Vincent's charm was relentless. Flowers, compliments, genuine excitement. It all felt so real. The first 2 days were a whirlwind of romantic dinners, dancing under the stars, laughter that made Rosa feel young again. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream. Her guard, which had been so carefully built over the years, slowly began to lower. The first 48 hours felt like a dream. Vincent was attentive, but respectful, funny but sincere. And for Rosa, it felt like the universe was finally rewarding her for all those years of sacrifice. But on day 3, when the ship docked in Hong Kong, everything changed. July 18th, 9:47 a.m., the ship docked in Hong Kong's cruise terminal. Vincent suggested they skip the touristy reason to explore the real Hong Kong, a neighborhood he knew from previous visits. Rosa, eager to experience something new, followed Vincent's lead. But as they walked, things began to feel off. He steered her away from the crowds, away from the other passengers. His phone buzzed constantly, but he never explained the messages. The route grew more isolated with every step. The sounds of the city faded away, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. She and all few Heil. Vincent's demeanor shifted from warm and inviting to focused, even distant. They walked for what felt like miles. Rosa's feet hurt in her new sandals. The sun beat down mercilessly, and when she asked Vincent where they were going, he just smiled and said, "Trust me." They turned into an alley between 2 industrial buildings, and that's when Rosa saw them. 2 men waiting by an unmarked van. Vincent's smile disappeared, and Rosa's blood ran cold. Rosa tried to run, but Vincent grabbed her arm, his grip iron tight. Nothing like the gentle touches from Thepis 3 days. She screamed. One of the men produced a cloth. The chemical smell hit her nose, and then darkness. When Rosa woke up, she wasn't in Hong Kong anymore. She was in the back of a truck, hands zip-tied, mouth gagged, the rumble of the engine beneath her, and 3 other women, all in the same condition, staring at her with hollow, terrified eyes. Rosa's mind raced, the horrible truth sinking in. She wasn't just lost, she'd been betrayed. The other women's presence confirmed it. This wasn't some random crime. This was organized. They had been marked as prey from day one. They had been driving 4 hours, and Rosa had no idea where they were taking her, but she was about toughened out. The truck stopped. The doors opened, and Rosa was dragged into a warehouse that smelled of bleach, rust, and fear. The space was massive, concrete floors stretching endlessly in every direction. Fluorescent lights flickered above, casting a harsh, buzzing glow over everything. It was gold. The air felt thick with the stench of disinfectant, sweat, and something for more unsettling. Approximately 15 to 20 women, all in various states of consciousness, were scattered through a room. Some bound to chairs, their eyes wide with terror. Others lying on thin mats on the cold floor, too exhausted to move. The sounds of the guards, speaking in a mix of Cantonese and Tagalog, echoed in the background. A medical area was cordoned off in the corner, equipment lined up, ready for whatever came next. But it wasn't thestral environment that chilled Rose's bones. It was the unmistakable sense that this was a well-organized operation, one that had been running for far too long. Rose's eyes adjusted to the dim light, and what she saw made her stomach turn. Women of different ages, all Asian, all clearly abducted, some crying silently, others staring blankly, already broken by whatever they'd endured. A woman was dragged past Rosa, barely conscious, a crude bandage wrapped around her abdomen. That's when Rosa understood. This wasn't about sex trafficking. This wasn't about forced labor. They were harvesting organs. Let it sink in. The operation targeted middle-aged women, those less likely to be immediately missed by loved ones. They took kidneys, portions of liver, and corneas. The victims were kept alivianly as long as they were useful. This warehouse was just one of many spread across Southeast Asia. The organs were sold to wealthy buyers who would pay top prices on the black market. A guard approached Rosa. He looked at her with the same expression someone might use when inspecting livestock. He checked her teeth, lifted her eyelids, pressed it in her abdomen, and then he marked something on a clipboard. Rosa had been selected. The surgery was scheduled for next morning. That night, Rosa lay in the cold concrete, her mind racing. She thought about her children, Lita, Paulo, Nena. Would they ever know what happened to her? Would they think she'd abandoned them for some foolish adventure? Regret flooded her mind. She blamed herself for trusting Vincent, for walking into this nightmare. How could she have been so blind? And then that truth hit her. She hadn't just been unlucky. She'd been targeted, specifically because of her vulnerability. A woman alone, desperate for connection, for something more. The crushing weight of knowing she'd walked into this trap willingly was almost too much to bear. It was her choices that had led her here, and the thought of her children waiting for her made her feel even more powerless. But something else stirred in Rosa that night. Something buried under years of compliancy and self-sacrifice. Rage. Pure burning rage. She wasn't going to die in this warehouse. She wasn't going to let these men win. And that's when she met Grace. Grace Lim, 34 years old, a nurse from Singapore, would been coerced into working for the trafficking ring after they threatened her family. She hated what she'd become, what she'd been forced to do, but she was trapped until Rosa. Grace had been working for the operation for 11 months. She'd assisted in over 30 surgeries. Every night, the guilt ate at her. She knew she was complicit in the horror unfolding around her. But she'd been looking for a way to save anyone, a chance to redeem herself. Grace approached Rosa in the middle of the night when the guards were on rotation. She knelt beside her, her eyes filled with tears, and whispered in Tagalog, "I'm going to help you, but you have to trust me." In that moment, Rosa saw something she hadn't seen in days: the possibility of escape. Grace had been planning this for weeks. She'd made contact with an underground network, a group that helped trafficking victims escape. But the window was small, and the risk was enormous. The plan was simple, but dangerous. Grace would date Rosa lightly during prep, making it look like she was ready for surgery. She'd create a medical emergency with another patient as a distraction. During the chaos, Grace would sneak Rosa out through a delivery entrance where Akantak would be waiting with a car. They'd have 12 minutes, 12 precious minutes before the guards noticed anything. The escape would depend on everything going perfectly. Grace pressed a small piece of paper in Rosa's palm. On it, written in bare legible handwriting, "Trust me, 300 AM. Stay awake. Pretend to sleep." Rosa had two choices: trust the stranger or wait for the surgery that would steal her kidney and possibly her life. She chose to fight. 3:17 AM. Grace created the distraction. She claimed one of the women was going in a shock. Guards rushed to the medical area and Grace grabbed Rosa, whispering, "Runo." Rosa's legs were weak from days off captivity, her body barely responding as Grace half carried, half dragged her through dark, narrow corridors. The sounds of shouting and footsteps behind them, the guards discovering the ruse, were growing louder. Then they reached a locked door. Grace's hands shook as she tried different keys, heart racing, eyes darting nervously. The door finally opened. Outside, a battered van, its engine running. A man shouting urgently at them, "Go, go, go." The van screeched away from the warehouse, speeding into the night. Rosa, cramped in the back, could hear gunshots ringing out behind them. She could hear Grace crying, her voice filled with fear and relief. Rosa could feel her own heart threatening to explode from her chest, each beat louder than the last. They'd made it, but they weren't safe yet. The van drove for 3 hours, crossing into mainland China. They arrived at a safe house run by an anti-trafficking organization. Rosa collapsed the moment she was inside. The organization, Phoenix Rising, specialized in rescuing trafficking victims in Asia. They had doctors, counselors, and legal advocates, everyone working tirelessly to heal the broken, to give them a second chance at life. Rosa was examined, malnourished, dehydrated, traumatized, but physical intact. They'd gotten to her just in time. For the first week, Rosa barely spoke. She stared at the walls as if searching for something to hold on to. She flinched at every sound, every movement, like a bird still afraid of storm. The trauma counselor told her this was normal, but Rosa didn't feel normal. She felt shattered. Grace didn't make it to the safe house with Rosa. During the escape, she'd been shot, shedded in that van, bleeding out while Rosa held her hand. Grace gave her life so Rosa could live. A woman she'd known for less than 24 hours. Why? Because Grace couldn't save the others, but she could save one. And sometimes saving one person is enough to redeem a soul. Rosa's heart broke for Grace. But there was something else there, too. A heaviness, an ache she couldn't shake. Survivor's guilt. How could she move on when Grace had given everything for her? How could she live when someone else headed for her freedom? Rosa promised her she would honor Grace's memory. She would fight for a future one that Grace never had a chance to see. The weight of knowing someone died for her would stay with Rosa forever. It took 6 weeks for Phoenix Rising to coordinate Rosa's return to the Philippines. 6 weeks of therapy, legal documentation, and preparation for what came next. The 30th of August 2018, Rosa arrived in Manila. Her children were waiting at the airport, crying. Lita, Paulo, Nina, all of them together again. The sight of them, it should have felt like home. But the mixture of relief and shame Rosa felt was overwhelming. She couldn't shake the guilt that came with her return. She couldn't forget Grace's sacrifice or the women left behind. Lita's words broke through the turmoil in Rosa's mind. Mama, you're home. That's all that matters. But home didn't feel like home anymore. Rosa had changed. The woman who'd boarded that cruise ship was gone. In her place was someone harder, angrier, but also more alive. Rosa wasn't content to just survive. She wanted justice, not just for herself, but for Grace. For humans still trapped in that warehouse. For the ones who didn't make it out. Rosa worked closely with the Filipino National Police and Interpol. She provided detailed descriptions of Vincent Torres, the warehouse, and the guards. Every detail she could remember, no matter how small. Her testimony was corroborated by Phoenix Rising's intelligence. Interpol dug deeper, uncovering connections. Vincent Torres was an alias. His real name was Dia Velasco, a known trafficker with ties across Asia. The investigation uncovered a network spanning 5 countries. Dozens of women had been trafficked through this operation over 8 years, and Diego, he was one of the top recruiters. Rosa wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was part of the fight to bring this network down. In November 2018, using Rosa's testimony and undercover operatives, Interpol set up Asting. They created a fake profile. Another woman looking for adventure on Diego took the bait. Diego arranged to meet the woman in Bangkok. Intelligence posing as the target were ready, their every move calculated. Diego, ever confident, arrived with a partner, already planning the abduction. The moment he made physical contact, agents moved in. Diego tried to run. He was tackled within seconds. His escape thwarted before he could even make it to the door. Diego Velasco was arrested on 12th of November 2018. And with his arrest came the collapse of the entire network. 7 other traffickers were apprehended. The warehouse Rosa had been held in was raided. 15 women were rescued. Justice had been served, but Rosa knew the fight was far from over. For every woman saved, there were still countless more waiting to be freed. Diego's trial began in March 2019. Rosa flew to Bangkok to testify. And when she walked into that courtroom and saw him, she didn't flinch. Rosa's testimony was powerful. She recounted every detail of the fear, the pain, the helplessness, but also the strength she'd found in herself. Evidence from Phoenix Rising and other rescued victims painted the full picture. Diego, unrepentant, showed no remorse. He even smirked during parts of the trial, as if daring anyone to challenge him. But the prosecutor's glossing argument struck at the heart of it all. These men saw women as products, as things to be used and discarded. But Rosa Aguilar is here today to prove they were wrong. Diego Velasco was sentenced to 95 years in prison for human trafficking, conspiracy to commit organ harvesting, kidnapping, and accessory to murder. He will die in prison, and Rosa watched as they led him away in chains. But for Rosa, the real victory wasn't the sentence. It was what she did next. In 2020, Rosa founded the Phoenix Shield Foundation, named after the organization that saved her and after the mythical bird that rises from the ashes. The foundation's mission was clear: educate women over 40 about online safety and romance scams, provide resources for verifying online connections, partner with law enforcement to track trafficking networks, offer trauma counseling for trafficking survivors, advocate for stronger international anti-trafficking laws. Rosa's work didn't stop at the foundation. She became an international speaker. She shared her story at conferences, on podcasts, in documentaries, giving voice to the voiceless. She wasn't hiding in shame. She was standing in her truth, using her pain as a weapon against predators like Diego. Rosa had become more than a survivor. She had become a force for change, a beacon of hope for those still trapped in darkness. In Rosa's office hangs a photo of Grace Lim. Below it, a plaque reads, "For the woman who saved me, and the countless others she'll save through her sacrifice." Rosa's tribute to Grace didn't end there. She established an annual scholarship in Grace's name for nursing students, committed to ethical healthcare. The scholarship serves as a reminder of Grace's courage, a legacy that will live on through the hands of those she inspired. Grace's family, initially unaware of how she died, now honors her as a hero. They too have embraced the ripple effect of one act of courage, a courage that saved Rosa and will continue to save others long after. Rosa never got to thank Grace, but she lives every day as a thank you. Every woman she educates, every survivor she helps, every trafficker brought to justice. That's her gratitude. The investigation into Diego's network uncovered the fates of 23 women over 8 years. Of those 23, 15 survived and were rescued, including Rosa. 4 were never found presumed dead. 4 were found deceased in various locations across East Asia. Each woman had a family, a story, dreams that were stolen, lives that were interrupted in ways they could never have imagined. Their names are remembered by the Phoenix Shield Foundation. Every October 15th, Rosa holds a vigil. She lights 23 candles, one for each woman lost, and she says their names out loud so they're never forgotten. Rosa will ensure that they are never forgotten. Their stories live in, woven into the fight for justice that continues every day. Today, Rosa is 57 years old. She lives in Manila with her daughter, Lita, and 2 grandchildren. She still runs the Phoenix Shield Foundation, and she's still fighting. Rosa travels internationally to speak, sharing her story and advocating for change. She helped implement online safety curricula in 5 Southeast Asian countries. The foundation has aided in the rescue of over 60 trafficking victims, saving lives, and restoring hope. Rosa is also working on a memoir telling her story, her truth, and the journey of survival and redemption. She's not the same woman who boarded that cruise ship in 2018. She's stronger, wiser, and she carries her scars, both visible and invisible, as badges of survival. Rosa is no longer just a survivor. She is a warrior, one who continues to rise, inspiring others to do the same. Rosa wants you to know this. Predators like Diego are everywhere. They're on Facebook, Instagram, dating apps, community groups. They're sophisticated, they're patient, and they know exactly how to exploit loneliness, vulnerability, and the very human desire to be seen and valued. Here are the warning signs: love bombing, excessive attention and flattery early on, rushing intimacy or commitment, offering to pay for expensive trips after a short acquaintance, isolating you from familiar friends, inconsistent stories or details about their life, reluctance to video chat or meet in public, initially creating urgency or pressure. If something feels too good to be true, trust that instinct. Your gut is often smarter than your heart. Rosa's story could have ended in that warehouse. She could have been another missing woman, another unsolved case, another family left with questions and grief. But she survived because one woman, Grace, decided that saving a single life mattered. And now Rosa spends her life making sure other women don't have to survive what she did. She's turning her trauma into protection, her pain into purpose. So let me ask you, do you know someone who might be vulnerable? An older mother, an aunt, a friend going through a divorce. Share Rosa's story with them. Share the warning signs, because awareness is the first line of defense. Don't wait until it's too late. Share, protect, and stand together. If Rosa's story moved you, here's what you can do right now. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We cover true crime stories that need to be told. Stories that could save lives. Share this video with women in your life who might be dating online or feeling vulnerable. It could literally save them. Comment below. Have you or someone you know experienced online manipulation? Your story could help others recognize the red flags. This is Rosa. If you're watching this and you're scared, if you're in a situation that doesn't feel right, trust yourself, reach out. You're not alone and you're worth fighting for. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay aware. And remember, your story doesn't have to end the way someone else writes it. You can rewrite it just like Rosa.